The desperate message. The control room of the Xantharian research vessel was in chaos. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the once sterile white walls were scorched with black streaks from recent explosions. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burning circuits, mingling with the desperation etched on every crew member's face. Captain Thalvik, a seasoned Xantharian officer with decades of experience, stared at the main display, his long, scaled fingers gripping the edges of his chair tightly. "Shields are failing," a technician shouted, panic evident in her trembling voice. The ship was under relentless attack from a rogue fleet of marauders, and the Xantharian crew had no chance of escape. "Redirect all power to the engines." Thalvik barked, his voice steady despite the storm around him. "They're already at maximum, sir," the technician replied. Thalvik's eyes narrowed. "Then it's time for the last resort." At the far end of the room, a young alien scientist named Kelna hesitated. Her small, wiry frame trembled as she clutched a device in her hands, a long-range distress beacon. "Captain," she began cautiously, "sending an SOS this deep into the void is dangerous. We don't know who might answer." Thalvik's gaze snapped to her, sharp and unyielding. "Do it, Kelna. We don't have a choice." Kelna's four-fingered hands trembled as she activated the beacon. A pulse of blue light emanated from the device, followed by a low hum that resonated throughout the ship. "SOS activated," she announced, her voice barely above a whisper. The beacon transmitted their message across the vast emptiness of space. "This is the Xantharian vessel Starfire. We are under attack. We require immediate assistance. Coordinates attached. Please help us." As the signal left their ship, it crossed light years in mere moments, piercing through the dark expanse of space and reaching places no Xantharian dared to explore. Far away in human territory, on a remote human space station, nestled near the edge of Deathworlder territory, a grizzled officer named Commander Elias Carter was reviewing routine patrol reports. The station was quiet, the hum of its engines providing a soothing backdrop to his work. Suddenly, a red light began blinking on his console. "Commander, we've intercepted an SOS," an AI assistant informed him. Elias frowned, leaning forward to examine the signal. "From where?" "Coordinates are deep in the void," the AI replied. "The sender identifies themselves as Xantharian." Elias raised an eyebrow. "The Xantharians. They're on the other side of the galaxy. What are they doing out here?" The message played, and for a moment, the room was silent except for the desperate plea for help. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. He knew the void was not a place where any ship ventured lightly. For an SOS to originate from there meant the situation was dire, possibly catastrophic. "Patch it through to High Command," Elias ordered, his voice firm. Within minutes, the signal was analyzed, and a decision was made. Humanity's most feared fleet, the Deathworlder Armada, was mobilized. Back on the Xantharian ship, Kelna stared at the beacon, its rhythmic pulse a stark contrast to the chaos around her. "Do you think anyone will answer?" she asked, her voice tinged with both hope and fear. Thalvik didn't respond immediately. His gaze was fixed on the viewport, where the enemy ships loomed closer with each passing second. "I don't know," he admitted finally, "but we'll soon find out." The ship shuddered violently as another blast hit its side. Warning sirens blared, and the crew scrambled to maintain what little functionality remained. Then, just as despair began to settle over them, the beacon emitted a sharp ping. Kelna's eyes widened as she checked the readings. "Captain, we've received a response." Thalvik rushed to her side. "From who?" Kelna hesitated, her voice almost trembling. "It's the Deathworlders." A heavy silence fell over the room. Every Xantharian knew the tales of Deathworlders. Humans. They were the most unpredictable and dangerous species in the galaxy, hailing from a planet so hostile that no other race dared to colonize it. The thought of their involvement was both a relief and a terror. Thalvik's expression hardened. "What's their message?" Kelna gulped before reading aloud. Hold your position. Reinforcements are en route. Do not attempt to flee. The words were simple, yet they carried an undeniable weight. For the first time in hours, a flicker of hope sparked in the crew's hearts. Let's hope we survive long enough to see them, Thalvik muttered, turning back to the viewport. As the Marauders prepared for their final assault, the Xantharian crew braced themselves. Little did they know, help was already on its way, and the galaxy was about to witness the full might of the Deathworlder fleet. The arrival of the fleet. The Xantharian ship, Starfire, was holding together by a thread. Hull breaches had been sealed with makeshift barriers, and the crew's energy was running dangerously low. The Marauders circled like predators, sensing their prey's final moments. Kelna stared at the flickering control panels, her claws tapping nervously against the edge of her console. The beacon's reply from the Deathworlders had given them a sliver of hope, but as minutes stretched into what felt like hours, doubt began to creep in. "Captain," she said hesitantly, breaking the tense silence, "what if they don't come?" Thalvik, standing resolutely by the viewport, didn't look at her. His gaze was locked on the enemy fleet, their ship's glowing weapons charging for what would undoubtedly be the killing blow. "They'll come," he said simply, his voice carrying a weight of determination. "Humans don't send empty promises." Aboard the Deathworlder fleet. In the heart of the Hercules, the flagship of the Deathworlder Armada, Admiral Serena Locke stood before a massive holographic display. The image of the Xantharian ship flickered, surrounded by the Marauder fleet. "Status report," she ordered. A young officer snapped to attention. "We're within visual range, Admiral. Enemy fleet consists of 15 ships, medium to heavy class. Xantharian vessel is critically damaged and unlikely to survive another direct hit." Serena nodded, her sharp eyes narrowing. "Engage stealth drives. We hit them hard and fast. I want all enemy ships neutralized before they know what hit them." The room buzzed with energy as the Deathworlder fleet prepared for battle. These were no ordinary humans. Born on a planet rife with danger, they were hardened by the harshest conditions imaginable. Their technology was equally intimidating, crafted to thrive in the deadliest of environments. Serena turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to the Xantharian ship. Let them know we're here." Back on the Starfire, the ship shuddered violently as another blast struck, throwing Kelna from her chair. She scrambled back up, her heart pounding in her chest. "Shields down to 12%. A technician shouted, panic evident in their voice. Thalvik opened his mouth to issue an order, but before he could speak, a voice crackled through the comm system. "This is Admiral Serena Locke of the Deathworlder fleet. Hold your position. We got this." The entire crew froze. For a moment, they couldn't believe what they had just heard. "They're here," Kelna whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and disbelief. Thalvik straightened, his usual stern demeanor softening ever so slightly. "Brace yourselves," he commanded. "This is going to be something to remember." The wrath of the Deathworlders. Out of the blackness of space, the Deathworlder fleet emerged, their ships cloaked in shadows until the moment they struck. The Hercules fired first, unleashing a barrage of plasma cannons that ripped through the enemy's lead ship with surgical precision. The Marauders didn't even have time to react. One by one, their vessels were targeted and destroyed, each explosion lighting up the darkness like a fireworks display. On the Starfire, the crew watched in awe as the Deathworlders dismantled the enemy fleet with ruthless efficiency. Their ships moved with a grace and power that seemed almost unnatural, as if the very laws of physics bent to their will. Kelna's claws dug into her console as she stared at the carnage unfolding before her. "They're incredible," she murmured. Thalvik nodded, his gaze never leaving the viewport. "They're Deathworlders," he said simply, as if that explained everything. Within minutes, the battle was over. The Marauder fleet was reduced to smoldering debris, and the Deathworlder ships now surrounded the battered Starfire like an impenetrable shield. Admiral Locke's message. A hologram of Admiral Serena Locke appeared in the Starfire's control room, her commanding presence filling the space. "Xantharian vessel, this is Admiral Locke. You're safe now. We'll escort you to the nearest Allied station for repairs," she said, her tone calm yet authoritative. Thalvik stepped forward, bowing his head respectfully. "We owe you our lives, Admiral," he said. "Thank you." Serena's expression softened ever so slightly. "Your distress call reached the right people," she replied. "Now let's get you out of here." As the hologram faded, the Starfire's crew erupted into cheers, their relief and gratitude spilling over. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, they allowed themselves to hope. But as the Deathworlder fleet prepared to depart, a faint signal crackled across their comms, one that hinted at a greater danger lurking in the void. To be continued in Part 3. The Unseen Threat. The Unseen Threat. As the Deathworlder fleet prepared to guide the battered Xantharian ship, Starfire, to safety, Admiral Serena Locke stood in the command deck of the Hercules, her sharp eyes scanning the holographic display. The scene was tranquil now, with debris from the defeated Marauder fleet drifting silently in the void. "Admiral, the Xantharian vessel reports minimal propulsion but stable life support," Commander Jensen informed her. "Good. Inform them we'll maintain formation until we reach Allied space," Serena replied. But before Jensen could acknowledge, a shrill alarm rang out, and the holographic display flickered ominously. "Incoming signal. Admiral," the communications officer called out. "It's faint, but it's on an encrypted frequency. A mysterious warning." Serena's brow furrowed. "Put it through." A garbled voice echoed through the deck, distorted by interference. The words were faint but unmistakable. "Deathworlder fleet. Danger. It's a trap. Evacuate. They're coming." The message cut off abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, and Serena's mind raced. Source of the transmission. The officer worked furiously at their console. "Unknown. Signal appears to be coming from the debris field, but there's no active transponder." Serena's instincts flared. This wasn't normal. The suspicion grows. On board the Starfire, Captain Thalvik stood in his dimly lit command center, watching the Deathworlder fleet maneuver around them with precision. Relief had barely set in when Kelna's voice broke through. "Captain, I'm picking up residual energy signatures from the debris field," she said, her claws tapping rapidly on her console. "Residual? From the destroyed ships?" Thalvik asked, his tone skeptical. Kelna hesitated. "No, sir. This energy doesn't match their tech. It's older. Much older." Thalvik felt a chill run down his spine. He had lived long enough to know that older in the galaxy often meant deadlier. The trap unfolds. Back on the Hercules, Serena's patience wore thin. "Deploy a drone to investigate the source," she ordered. Moments later, a small, sleek probe launched from the Hercules, weaving through the wreckage with silent efficiency. The crew watched the live feed intently as the drone approached what appeared to be a large chunk of twisted metal. The image flickered, and suddenly, the entire debris field lit up with dozens of energy signatures. Cloaking devices deactivated, revealing the hidden fleet of heavily armed ships lurking in the shadows. "Admiral, multiple hostile contacts," the sensor officer shouted. "They've been waiting for us." Serena's jaw tightened, but her voice remained steady. "Red alert. All ships to battle stations. Prepare to engage. A new kind of enemy." The hostile fleet moved with a chilling coordination, their ships unlike anything the Deathworlders had encountered before. Their designs were ancient yet advanced, their weapons glowing with an eerie blue light. Thalvik's comms crackled with urgency. "Admiral Locke, we're detecting those ships from our end. That energy, it's from an ancient race. They were thought extinct." Serena didn't flinch. "Well, Captain, it seems they're not as extinct as we thought. But they made one mistake. They picked a fight with Deathworlders." The first strike. The Hercules fired its main cannon, a burst of energy tearing through one of the enemy ships, but it barely slowed them down. The alien vessels retaliated with uncanny precision, their weapons bypassing standard shielding as if it wasn't even there. On board the Starfire, Kelna watched in horror as one of the Deathworlder frigates was disabled with a single hit. "They're adapting to our tech," she whispered. Thalvik's voice was grim. "Then we better hope the Deathworlders can adapt faster." Admiral Locke's gambit. Serena quickly realized brute force wouldn't win this battle. The enemy's technology was too advanced, their strategy too calculated. But she wasn't about to let that stop her. "Jensen," she said, her mind working rapidly, "prepare the fleet to execute maneuver Theta 6. Draw them in close." Jensen hesitated. "Admiral, that's a high-risk move." "Yes," she cut him off, "but it's our best shot. Do it." The fleet's counterstrike. As the enemy fleet advanced, the Deathworlder ships began to retreat in a seemingly chaotic pattern. The alien vessels pursued, sensing victory, unaware they were being led into a carefully laid trap. Serena's voice was calm but firm as she gave the final order. "All ships, on my mark. Fire." The Hercules unleashed its full arsenal, followed by the rest of the fleet. Explosions rippled through the enemy formation as the Deathworlders' concentrated firepower exploited a weak point in their defense. The alien fleet faltered, their once coordinated movements now chaotic. But the battle was far from over. A dire revelation. Just as victory seemed within reach, the sensors lit up with more incoming signatures. A second wave of alien ships emerged, larger and more heavily armed than the first. Serena's eyes narrowed. So, the real fight begins. The ancient foe. As the second wave of alien ships loomed into view, their massive forms casting long shadows over the battlefield, the realization hit the Deathworlder fleet. This was no ordinary enemy. Admiral Serena Locke stared at the holographic display, her sharp mind piecing together the clues, the designs of the ships, the eerie energy signatures, the unmatched precision in their attacks. It all pointed to one chilling conclusion. "Admiral," Commander Jensen called, his voice tight. "We've confirmed the energy signatures. These ships, they match the archives of the progenitors." The name hung in the air like a storm cloud. Legends come to life. The progenitors were a name whispered in galactic lore, an ancient race that had vanished long before most civilizations even took to the stars. They were said to be the architects of countless technologies, the ones who seeded the galaxy with life itself. But their end had been shrouded in mystery. "Progenitors," Serena repeated, her voice calm but laced with intrigue. "So the myths were true. And they're not happy to see us," Jensen added grimly. The Xantharian perspective. On the battered Starfire, Captain Thalvik listened intently to the chatter from the Deathworlder fleet. The name progenitors sent a shiver down his spine. "Kelna," he said, turning to his chief scientist, "do the records match?" Kelna's claws moved rapidly over her console. "They do. The energy signatures, the ship designs, everything aligns with the progenitor archives. But Captain, if these are truly progenitors, we're not dealing with survivors. We're dealing with their war machines." Thalvik's fur bristled. War machines left to guard their legacy, or to wipe out those they deemed unworthy. Kelna replied grimly. "A calculated enemy." The progenitor ships moved with uncanny precision, their energy weapons slicing through the void like surgical blades. The Deathworlder fleet fought valiantly, but their shields and armor were no match for the advanced technology. "Admiral, we've lost the Valiant and the Dreadspire," a voice reported over the comms. Serena clenched her fists, her mind racing. The Deathworlders had faced countless enemies before, marauders, tyrants, even other galactic coalitions. But this was different. These ships weren't just powerful. They were relentless and methodical. "Focus on their smaller vessels," she ordered. "We'll thin their numbers and buy ourselves time." A race against time. On board the Starfire, Kelna continued her frantic analysis. Captain, these ships aren't just attacking. They're learning. Each strike is more precise, each maneuver more calculated. Then we need to give them something they can't calculate, Falvik said, his voice firm. Patch me through to Admiral Locke. Moments later, the Xantharian captain's face appeared on the Hercules main screen. Captain Falvik, Serena greeted. I hope you have good news. Not good, but necessary, Falvik replied. The progenitor ships are adapting to your tactics, but I believe we can disrupt their network. Serena leaned forward. How? Kelna appeared beside Falvik. The progenitor ships rely on a central command node to coordinate their attacks. If we can overload it with a directed energy burst, we might cause enough chaos to turn the tide. The plan forms. Serena nodded, her mind already working through the logistics. Where's this command node located? Kelna hesitated. At the center of their formation. But Admiral, the energy required for such a burst would require you to lower your shields. Risky, Serena admitted, but not impossible. Falvik added, the Starfire can provide cover. We may be damaged, but we're not out yet. Serena allowed herself a small smile. You Xantharians continue to surprise me. The execution. As the progenitor fleet pressed their assault, the Hercules began its approach to the heart of the enemy formation. The smaller Deathworlder ships flanked it, drawing fire away from the flagship. The legacy of the ancients. As the Deathworlder fleet regrouped, the shattered remains of the progenitor ships floated ominously in the void. Admiral Serena Locke stood on the bridge of the Hercules, her sharp gaze fixed on the remnants of the battle. Victory had been won, but the questions it raised were just beginning. The aftermath. Damage report, Serena demanded. Significant, but manageable. Commander Jensen replied. We lost 3 ships, but most of the fleet is intact. The Xantharian Starfire has requested assistance with repairs. Serena nodded. Send what we can spare. They were instrumental in this fight. As the Hercules crew worked tirelessly to repair systems and assess casualties, Serena's mind lingered on the progenitors. Who were they, really? And why had they left their war machines to guard the galaxy's forgotten corners? A message left behind. On board the Xantharian Starfire, Captain Falvik was also deep in thought. His crew had begun salvaging pieces of the progenitor ships, searching for any clues about their purpose. Kelna, the Starfire's chief scientist, called him to the lab. Captain, you need to see this, Kelna said, her voice filled with unease. Falvik entered the lab to find a glowing data core resting on a containment platform. What is it? He asked. It's a message, Kelna explained. Encoded in a language older than anything we've ever encountered. I've managed to decode part of it. The core emitted a low hum, and an eerie voice spoke. To those who awaken our guardians know this. Our legacy is not one of peace. We created, and we destroyed. If you dare to venture further, you will find the truth of your existence. Falvik's fur bristled. What does it mean? Kelna shook her head. I don't know, but it's a warning. An uneasy alliance. The discovery was quickly shared with Admiral Locke. The Xantharian captain appeared on the Hercules holoscreen, his expression grim. Admiral, we've uncovered a message from the progenitors, Falvik said, replaying the haunting recording. Serena listened intently, her expression unreadable. This changes everything, she said finally. We thought this was just a relic of the past, a forgotten war machine. But this is a challenge. Falvik nodded, and one we're not ready for. A hard decision. Back on the bridge of the Hercules, Serena called a meeting with her senior staff. The progenitors left behind a legacy that's far more dangerous than we anticipated, she began. If this is just a fraction of their power, we need to be prepared for what's coming next. Jensen spoke up. Do you think they're still out there, Admiral? Alive? Serena's gaze hardened. If they are, we just rang their doorbell, and they won't take kindly to uninvited guests. The reluctant heroes. The Xantharian fleet, though battered, had pledged their support to the Deathworlders. Despite their differences, the two species now shared a common goal: uncovering the truth about the progenitors while preparing for the worst. Kelna approached Thalvik with new data. "Captain, I've analyzed the energy burst from the Hercules. It triggered a deep space signal, something we couldn't detect before." Thalvik frowned. "Where is it heading?" Kelna hesitated. "Toward a system that doesn't exist on any of our charts. It's as if the progenitors wanted us to follow." The choice to pursue. When Serena received the news, she felt a mix of dread and determination. "Admiral," Jensen said, "it could be a trap. Or it could be the key to understanding what we're dealing with," Serena countered. She turned to the holomap, where the unknown system blinked like a distant beacon. "We don't have a choice," she said firmly. "If the progenitors are watching, we need to show them that humanity, and its allies, won't back down." The next journey begins. As the fleets prepared to set course for the uncharted system, a strange sense of unity spread among the crews. Deathworlders and Xantharians, once wary of each other, now worked side by side. The Hercules led the way, its damaged hull still a symbol of unyielding resolve. And deep in the void, in a place where no light had shone for millennia, something ancient stirred into the unknown. The Hercules and its allied fleet surged through hyperspace, the hum of their engines resonating with purpose. Admiral Serena Locke stood on the bridge, her sharp eyes fixed on the holographic projection of their destination. The unknown system loomed like a black void on the map, its coordinates a riddle left by the progenitors. A dangerous journey. "Admiral, we're nearing the edge of known space," Commander Jensen reported. His voice carried a hint of unease. "Sensors are struggling to keep up. There's interference. Anomalies we've never seen before." "Stay alert," Serena ordered. "This is where the real challenge begins." The fleet moved cautiously, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily on every crew member. Among them, whispers of doubt spread. Xantharian's perspective. Aboard the Xantharian Starfire, Captain Thalvik watched his crew working diligently. Despite their exhaustion, they pressed on, motivated by the alliance with the Deathworlders. "Captain," Kelna called, her voice tense. "The energy signal we're following, it's growing stronger. It's almost like it's alive." Thalvik's fur bristled. "Alive? What do you mean?" Kelna hesitated, her gaze locked on the glowing readings. "It's reacting to us. The closer we get, the more it changes. It's as if it knows we're coming." The gateway. When the fleet finally arrived at the system, the sight that greeted them stole their breath. A massive structure hung in the void, its ancient design glowing faintly with blue light. "It's a gateway," Serena murmured, her voice filled with awe. "Built by the progenitors." The gateway was unlike anything they'd encountered. Its towering arches and intricate carvings pulsed with an eerie rhythm, as if beckoning them forward. "Admiral," Jensen said, breaking the silence. This thing is centuries ahead of anything we've seen. Should we even approach it?" "We didn't come all this way to turn back," Serena said firmly. "Prepare the fleet for entry." The first attempt. As the Hercules moved closer, the gateway's lights intensified. Alarms blared across the ship as energy readings spiked. "Admiral," Kelna's voice came through the comms from the Starfire. "The gateway is analyzing us. If we're not careful, it might see us as a threat." "Suggestions?" Serena asked, her mind racing. "Lower your energy output," Kelna advised. "It seems to react to aggression. We need to approach cautiously, like we're asking for permission." Serena nodded. "Do it." The fleet powered down non-essential systems, inching closer to the gateway. The activation. As they neared, the gateway roared to life. A blinding beam of light shot out, enveloping the Hercules and the Starfire. For a moment, the crews thought they were under attack. But then, the light faded, revealing a swirling vortex in the center of the structure. It's a wormhole, Kelna said in awe. The gateway just opened a path. To where? Serena asked. Unknown, Kelna admitted. But the signal we've been tracking, it's coming from the other side. A divided decision. The fleet convened for a critical decision. This could be a trap, Jensen warned. We don't know what's on the other side. But if the progenitors are watching, they've already judged us, Serena countered. We can't back down now. This is why we're here. Thalvik chimed in. My crew is prepared to follow. If this is the legacy of the progenitors, we must uncover it together. Serena turned to her crew. You've heard the risks. Those who wish to stay behind can do so. Not a single hand was raised. Through the gateway, the Hercules led the way into the vortex, its hull trembling as the ship was pulled into the unknown. For a moment, there was only darkness. Then, the fleet emerged into a realm that defied imagination. A massive structure, larger than any planet, floated in the void. Its surface shimmered with energy, and its design bore the unmistakable mark of the progenitors. What is this place? Jensen whispered, his voice filled with awe. Kelna's voice came through the comms. It's not just a structure, it's alive. This is the heart of the progenitors' power. A new challenge. As the fleet approached the colossal structure, a voice echoed through the comms. It was deep, resonant, and ancient. You have entered the domain of the first makers. State your purpose, or be annihilated. Serena stepped forward, her resolve unshaken. This is Admiral Serena Locke of the Deathworlder fleet. We seek to understand your legacy and the challenges you've left behind. The voice paused, as if considering her words. Prove your worth. The trial begins now. The colossal structure began to shift, its surface transforming into a maze of energy fields and obstacles. The trial had begun. The trial of the first makers. The swirling maze of energy fields loomed ahead, its brilliance both mesmerizing and daunting. The fleet hovered in place, each crew waiting for the inevitable. Admiral Serena Locke's voice cut through the tension. Shields up. All ships, stay in formation. We move together. The progenitor's ancient voice echoed again, reverberating through their comms and minds alike. Only those who can endure the trial may proceed. Show us your resolve, Deathworlders. The first challenge. The maze of energy. The Hercules led the fleet into the maze, its sensors working overtime to chart a path. The energy fields shifted unpredictably, emitting bursts of plasma that could tear through even the strongest hulls. Admiral, the energy signatures are off the charts, Commander Jensen warned. Keep steady, Serena replied. We've faced worse. This is just another battlefield. The crew worked in unison, navigating through the dangerous labyrinth. The Xantharian Starfire followed closely, its crew adapting quickly to the Deathworlder's commands. Captain Thalvik's voice came through the comms. Admiral, there's a pattern in the energy surges. We might be able to anticipate the bursts. Send the data to all ships, Serena ordered. Let's make this maze regret challenging us. The second challenge, the mind's test. As the fleet reached the maze's end, the vortex opened into a vast chamber filled with blinding light. Suddenly, the comms went silent, and the crew of each ship found themselves in an otherworldly space, a place where time and logic no longer applied. Serena blinked, finding herself in a strange room that resembled her childhood home. A voice echoed in her mind. This trial is of the mind. Face your fears or fall. Shadows emerged around her, taking the forms of fallen comrades, past regrets, and mistakes she thought long buried. Unity prevails. On the Xantharian Starfire, Captain Thalvik faced his own trial, reliving the moment he chose survival over saving his mentor. Across the fleet, every individual faced their deepest fears. But Deathworlders and Xantharians alike had one thing in common. They fought through adversity together. Admiral, Jensen's voice broke through the silence. We can hear each other if we focus. The fleet, it's connected somehow. Serena took a deep breath. Everyone, remember why we're here. We came to prove our worth, not just as individuals, but as a united force. Hold on to that unity. Her words resonated across the fleet, breaking the illusions. One by one, the crews reappeared on their ships, stronger than before. The final test. The progenitor's guardian. Emerging from the chamber, the fleet faced the final challenge. A colossal construct of metal and energy, shaped like a dragon. Its glowing eyes scanned them, and its voice was deafening. You have endured the trials of strength and mind. Now face the guardian of the First Makers. The guardian unleashed a devastating energy beam, forcing the fleet into action. Evasive maneuvers. Serena shouted. Starfire, flank it. We'll distract it from the front. Thalvik responded without hesitation. Understood. Let's show this guardian what we're made of. The battle of wits and power. The fleet coordinated with precision, their unity stronger than ever. The Guardian's attacks were relentless, but each ship played its part. Admiral, Kelma's voice crackled over the comms. The Guardian's core is exposed when it charges its main weapon. We'll need a precise strike to disable it. Serena nodded. All ships, focus fire on the core. Timing is everything. As the Guardian prepared another devastating attack, the Hercules and the Starfire synchronized their efforts. Now, Serena commanded. A combined volley of energy blasts struck the core, causing the Guardian to falter. Its massive frame began to collapse, its glowing eyes dimming. The legacy unlocked. As the Guardian disintegrated, the progenitor's voice returned. You have proven yourselves worthy, Deathworlders. Your strength, unity, and resolve have earned you the knowledge of the First Makers. The colossal structure shimmered, revealing a central chamber filled with ancient technology and data. The secrets of the progenitors were finally within their grasp. Serena stood tall, her voice filled with pride. We didn't come for conquest. We came to learn, to grow, and to ensure this power is used wisely. A new chapter. With the progenitor's knowledge secured, the fleet began its journey back, forever changed by their trials. The Deathworlders and Xantharians had not only survived, they had forged an unbreakable alliance. And in the vastness of space, the legend of their unity would echo for generations to come. The end.